Evening. I'd like to call the August 26, 2021 POSAC meeting to order. First item of business would be roll call. Jen Archuleta. Paula Fitzgerald.
I'm here.
Stephen Myrick.
Here.
Trace Baker.
Here.
Ann Overchain.
Here.
Tony Lewis. Janet George.
Here.
Hi, Janet. Heather Williams. Okay. Thank you. Jim Krug here. Thank you. Next item of business is the approval of last month's, well, actually June's meeting minutes. So at this time, the chair will entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve. This is Paula Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Paula. Is there a second?
Trace Baker, second.
Thank you, Trace. Is there any discussion, changes, tweaks made to the meeting minutes needed? Any typos, edits? Okay. All those in favor of approval of the minutes say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Any abstention? This is Jim Krug. I'll abstain since I wasn't there in June. And I also want to thank Jen for filling in for me in June. Appreciated. Next item of business is
Paula.
all right. Next item of business is the public participation. Do we have anybody online or on the phone who is participating this evening as a public comment? Okay. Hey, Wendy, are you there?
Hi, I'm here.
Hey, good evening. Hey, Wendy, would you just go ahead and introduce yourself when ready? And you take about 5 minutes. I'll try to time it and give you a heads up as we get closer to the 5-minute mark. And so please begin with your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Wendy Sweet, and I'm the Executive Director of the Boulder Mountain Bike Alliance. My address is 3600 Dartmouth Avenue, 80305. And I'd like to thank POSAC and staff for allowing me the opportunity to provide public input at tonight's meeting. I'd like to express concerns over the communication over the Cowwood fire recovery at Heil Valley Ranch. Since the fire happened almost 11 months ago, I have continually asked staff for more information and progress updates. Here's an excerpt from an email I sent on December 15th that is still very relevant today. Hi. People are desperate for information about Heil, even if there's no change in the expected full reopening date of the park. I know the mountain bike community in particular has an emotional investment. It's one of the most popular places to ride in the Boulder County system. We don't just want trails reopened, we also care about the forest and landscape recovery. Do you think it's possible for Boulder County to have updates from staff and rangers on what happened in the park that week, why those actions were taken, what was learned, and what next steps are? I know when I repost staff and ranger pictures on BMA's social media, we get a lot of engagement. It's the end of the email. In the spring, I asked staff if it would be possible to have a virtual town hall for updates on the recovery process and what to expect in the future. The town hall did not materialize. The last director's update to POSAC regarding Heil was in April. Last week, the Heil recovery page was updated to say that the south side would not reopen on October 1st, but no public email or social media posting was made regarding this change. I was also informed last week by staff that this October date is no longer happening, but because we've had very little in the way of updates over the summer, the public does not understand what the delay is or what the process for partial or full reopenings looks like. BMA respectfully requests that the Boulder County Parks and Open Space communicate directly to subscribers of Parks and Open Space News about what processes must happen before there can be a partial or full reopening of the south side. We'd also like to know what standards and metrics staff are using to measure safety and recovery progress. We'd also like to know if you're prioritizing any areas for reopening in a staged manner. For example, the Schoolhouse Loop Trail is the only purpose-built beginner trail in all of Boulder County, and to our knowledge, it was mostly untouched by the fire. With the closure, it's been difficult for young and new riders to access our trail systems this year due to this ongoing closure. We do understand there are flood risks, safety, and access issues that must be addressed before South Heil can reopen, but we feel very much in the dark about what work remains to be done to address these concerns. As a resident of the Front Range, I very much appreciate the monthly e-newsletters I receive from Jeffco Open Space and Larimer County Natural Resources. These newsletters are timely and provide important news and information such as fire recovery updates, trail building and maintenance, visitor safety and etiquette, and more. We would love to see Boulder County staff consider a similar monthly email newsletter and would love to be a partner in this effort. We respectfully request that staff uphold the promise of the Boulder County Vision Statement, which reads, "As trusted stewards of Boulder County's future, we provide the best in public service." And the Boulder County Guiding Value of Engagement, which states, "We listen to and provide opportunities for all community members to actively collaborate and engage with us in order to continually improve our services." And as always, BMA is standing by to offer our full support in the form of professional trail building assistance, volunteer crews, and fundraising efforts. Thank you for your time and consideration. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Hey, Wendy, this is Jim Krug. Thank you. Thank you for coming out tonight. And as luck or fate would have it, Wendy, we have on the director's update, which was for a little later, an update on exactly your question. And so I think what we're going to do is ask Janice, we'll move the director's update now, and we'll hear at the same time you do, Wendy, in a sense. So if that's okay with Janice, and I think Blevin is still with us, I think the two of them can address, give us a little bit of an update. And Janice, then we'll just use your director's update so we don't have to get you up and down twice tonight, if that's okay.
Sure. This is Janice Wisman. I was the interim co-director for a while until our new director, Therese Glowacki, started on Monday. I'm now back to my normal job of being the real estate division manager for Boulder County Parks and Open Space. And Therese couldn't make it tonight, so she asked me to provide the director's update. And as you mentioned, Jim, we have Bevan Carruthers here and several other staff who've been involved in the recovery efforts in detail. And we appreciate Wendy's comments, and I have some remarks to share with all of you for that update. And the first thing I want to let you know is that the timeline that we're looking at is on the webpage and does have a detailed list of projects of what's been done and still needs to be done. And there's quite a bit of safety concern in the area. So that's a major part of why we can't open the property. But I want to give you an update, first of all, on the progress we've made to date, and then talk a little bit more about where we are and what we need to do next. So the progress to date, we have concluded the aerial mulching project, which was quite extensive. The contracting helicopter company has left the property. All obvious hazard trees have been removed from about 3.63 miles of trails and access roads. And almost 11 miles of trails have been open to the public via the Picture Rock Trailhead near Lyons for some time. The wood shred mulch that has been applied has been applied to 2,115 acres, which includes not just parks and open space land at Howell Valley Ranch, but private and Forest Service land in both the Deer Creek and Central Gulch watersheds. And we've had over 50 small check dams and beaver dam analogs being installed now. That's in progress right now. And that's the second of 3 phases of some grant funding that we've got from the Emergency Watershed Program, which is federal funding. We've also been doing trail clearing, removing weeds and sediment. That's begun with youth corps and volunteers, including BMA volunteers who were out there last week. And we love all of the help that we can get, especially from volunteers who are so enthusiastic about our properties. So now on to details about the closure. We are working right now to open the northern portion of the Wapiti Trail by October 1st, and hopefully we can do it sooner than that. That will add another 1.2 miles of trail one way. And we will be asking the county commissioners to keep the rest of the ranch closed until the spring, because of ongoing fire recovery and public safety concerns. And the closure does have to be approved by the board. It's not something we can just declare ourselves. So we will be asking the commissioners for that approval. The closure was scheduled initially to go through September 30th. That was just kind of an initial estimate of what we might be able to do. And I think there was a plan all along to see if that date could still hold. And recovery operations indeed will still be ongoing throughout the fall and the winter. So just over 8 miles of trail are currently closed, along with the Gear Canyon access, which is the access from the south side. So that entrance road, all park amenities at the Corral Trailhead, the main trailhead, some sections of the Wapiti Trail, the Lichen Loop Trail, the Overland Trail, the Schoolhouse Loop, and the Grindstone Quarry Trail are closed. And that is largely because we still have a lot of activity from contractors and staff and equipment, and we all need the space to operate. There are also, as you probably have guessed from the various rain events we've had, there have been some needs to stabilize the Gear Creek floodplain. That upper watershed of the Gear Canyon has been receiving some pretty localized but large rain events, and that continues the instability and lack of safety in the area. So we will be doing some improvements to the floodplain itself, to Gear Creek, and along the main access road. And that is all going to require design and permitting, which takes longer. And then we also have 3 pedestrian bridges that were destroyed that will need engineering review and then have to be purchased and received and then put in place. And we, of course, also need to replace trailhead and parking lot amenities. And all of those projects are complex, and there's a dynamic construction timeline for a variety of reasons. So there's no safe and cost-effective way to bring visitors into the park during that construction. But as I mentioned, we've been using some volunteers. We will continue to do that and use volunteers and community groups to assist with our recovery efforts when we can get them in there in a safe condition. And we do intend to provide a more detailed update on the recovery work at an upcoming fall POSAC meeting and share our accomplishments in the typical style where we have a presentation and take questions and that sort of thing. So we will explain then in more detail how much more work we have to do to get the property open to the public. So that is the brief, or not so brief, Ohio Valley Ranch update. And
Well, thank you, Janice. That was good. Wendy, I hope that addressed some of your issues and concern. We normally don't get into a Q&A with public items not on the agenda. So I would just say, Wendy, your other suggestions or recommendations are well noted and are on the record. And I'm sure the Parks and Open Space staff would be glad to answer any other questions if you want to give them a ring tomorrow, I'm sure. And but listen, thanks, Wendy, for you coming out. Thanks for that, Janice. I'm going to ask, is there any other director's update you'd like to give while you're up?
Yes, thank you. I was just going to ask if I could do that. Happy to do that now. And looking over at my other screen here, the COSA, Colorado Open Space Alliance Conference, is coming up in October 11th through the 13th at Vail Grand Hyatt, excuse me. And you all should have received an email today from Tina Nielsen inviting you to participate in that if you would like. And the county will cover your cost if you'd like to attend. So please avail yourselves of that opportunity if you're interested, and look to that email for more detail. And then a quick real estate update for you. The Aldridge property that we brought before you that was the 2 mining claims in Gilpin County that the county wanted to acquire to help us with the Toll and Ranch Trail. That closing has happened. And we closed on that property on August 12th. So we were successful in getting that one done. And then the Resource Management Division let me know that we do now have a new senior weed specialist. I don't know if you remember Steve Sauer, but he retired last month. And Joe Swanson has been an in-house promotion to that position after a competitive hiring process. So he is our new weeds specialist. And going back a bit to the Forestry group, they have 2 big projects on the horizon. One is a project up at Caribou Ranch, Sherwood Gulch, which is a property that's west of Mud Lake. There was a public meeting in Nederland last week to talk about it, and the project includes the Caribou parking lot. And this project will start this fall. And along those lines, Boulder County is not currently under any burn restrictions, and prescribed fire is one of our best defenses against catastrophic wildfire, as we saw with the work that was done at Ohio Valley Ranch before the fire. And the Parks and Open Space staff and the Sheriff's Office fire crews are planning a fall prescribed burn plans for Hall Ranch and Ron Stewart Preserve, hoping that the weather cooperates during the time frame when we'd like to do that. And then the wildlife staff and resource management have reported a tally of their eagle fledgling success. And we have about 14 bald eagle nests in the county. 8 of those are on or near Parks and Open Space property, and 29 eaglets fledged, which is quite a number. And we also have golden eagle nests, of course, and of the ones that we monitor, we had 8 eaglets fledged. So pretty successful summer for the eagles. And my last update is that the Doherty Museum is open now for a short season. It's closed last year due to COVID, and it needed to wait for some COVID protocols before being open this summer. It is only open through the end of August on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So you've got a short window to get out there if you haven't been yet. And if you're interested, it's got a lot of vintage vehicles, farm equipment, musical instruments, quite a treasure of history. And it's really worthwhile to go to if you have time. Thank you.
Hey, Janice, I thank you. And a couple of shout outs, one to you, and thank you for filling in. And also to Jeff. I told Jeff that, so I should tell you that in person.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
Thank you for filling in. And tip of the hat to Miss Glowacki, and congrats to her, and thanks to Jen Archuleta for representing POSAC in the interview process. So shout out to everybody. So thanks.
Thanks to all who participated.
Yeah, thanks, Janice. And now we will come back if we can. Carla, if you're all set, we will come back to the ADA transition plan if we can.
I'm all set.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to try to share my screen. Can everybody see that?
Not yet. Oh, there it is, I think.
There it comes. There. I hope you can see it.
All good.
Okay, cool. Start my video. All right. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for having us. We're really excited to be here tonight. I'm Carla Schultz, Facilities Planner with Boulder County Public Works, and I'm here with our ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act expert and consultant, Jeff Ames, with Meeting the Challenge. Before Jeff jumps into the specifics of the trailheads and open space, I'll give you a super quick Boulder County ADA implementation plan history. It's super exciting, so brace yourself. So it's been 20 years since Boulder County developed our last ADA transition plan. And during that time, we completed upgrades in 1993, 2000, and continuously. Since those upgrades, ADA standards have been updated. Boulder County has acquired and removed a few facilities, modified organizational structures with the reorg, to name one, performed capital improvement projects, and provided different programs and services that may differ from what was covered under the original ADA self-evaluation plan. So back in 2019, it feels like ages ago, Boulder County selected Meeting the Challenge as our ADA consultant through a competitive RFP process to perform an updated ADA transition plan to help ensure the county buildings, sidewalks, parking lots, policies, website, trailheads, open space are all accessible to the public under current ADA requirements. So funding for these upgrades will be an ongoing ask every year for the next few years until we're able to complete all of the ADA action items. Trailheads will take 4 to 6 years, while facilities will take longer, with public spaces being top priority. So in the next few weeks, let me see here. In the next few weeks, we will be launching a public outreach website where the public can take a survey, review the ADA transition plan draft, and provide comments. The public meeting is still TBD because we have all the homework still to finish up, and we need to review comments from the website. So we'll be posting this date soon and other dates on the website. So bookmark this. We'll show it to you again at the end of the presentation. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Jeff Ames with Meeting the Challenge. Jeff?
Good evening. And thank you for the introduction, Carla. Let's flip to the next slide. Going to cover just basically what the requirements are for self-evaluation and transition plans for state and local government entities under Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Want to really make clear that the self-evaluation really looks at programs and activities and services that are provided more specifically than it looks at physical or architectural structures, because the law requires that your services and programs be accessible, not necessarily that all your buildings and developed structures be accessible. So move on to the next slide. We'll go through this stuff. So should make clear that the requirement for a self-evaluation was an initial regulatory requirement of the Americans with Disabilities Act, and that was supposed to be completed in the early 90s. There's not technically a requirement to do ongoing or repeat or periodic evaluations. However, as Carla mentioned, programs change, facilities change, alterations and new structures are built, so on and so forth. So what the self-evaluation process is a means of ensuring that ADA compliance is ongoing. And of course, some of the things that came up in the original transition plan for the county got done. Some of them didn't get done. Some new construction was not done to standard. So there's issues that come up. The requirement does specify certain things such as an opportunity for public input, and also that the evaluation report be kept on file for a period of time for public inspection. Next slide, please. So Title II of the ADA, just a real quick overview. I call it the regulatory requirements are sort of the thou shalt nots, because a lot of it is prohibitions, and those prohibitions are mostly focused on things that would discriminate against people with disabilities. So you can't deny opportunity for benefits to participate in services, programs, and activities, or any other kind of disability-based discrimination. You can't exclude people from programs. Even if you provide special programs for people with disabilities, they still have a right to participate in the programs, the regular programs that are offered to the public. This is taken in the language of the regulations called when viewed in their entirety. So a program that's offered in a number of different venues may not have to be accessible at each and every one of those venues. In some instances, for example, in the last year, we found out that some programs can be offered virtually online. And if you can give people access by simply sitting at home looking at their computer, or going to the library and looking at a computer, then you may not have to actually make the physical space where that meeting is provided accessible to people. And that said, I'd like to quote the regulations. The law does not necessarily require a public entity to make each of its existing facilities accessible to and usable by people with disabilities. Next slide, please. Part of our process was really just to talk to the people who run everything in the county. So we call these management interviews, but they're really just conversations with the people who head up departments and so on and so forth. And we just want to find out what their familiarity was with the ADA. And we ask a lot of questions. We discuss a lot of different issues that give us an idea of whether programs are made accessible through methods and means other than architectural barrier removal, because that's always the first option, and generally speaking, the less costly option for making programs accessible. So we just go through all these different questions, discuss these issues, whether there have been certain incidents that involved service animals, communication issues. One of the things I think somewhere along the way we talked to people about other power-driven mobility devices, which could be anything from a three-wheeled gas-powered ATV to an electric bicycle. People with disabilities have a right to use other power-driven mobility devices. However, there are places that you can restrict that use, and I think probably that's a significant area of policy that should be discussed for your trails. Next slide, please. Along the way, we also conducted an online survey monkey of county employees. We got a majority of them to respond. This was essentially just to evaluate what concerns they had, what knowledge they have regarding the ADA. Significantly, when it comes to understanding a very complex law, a lot of people are not really very sure about what the law does require or not. And this quote comes from one of those people who responded, said, "Although we want to be an inclusive and welcoming organization, I'm unsure about most things related to the ADA. It would be good to get training and resources so that I'm better informed and prepared to assist coworkers and the public, as well as make changes to our projects, programs, and facilities where possible." So this is something we will be pursuing, and we'll be doing some training. So we'll move on to the next slide. We try to target the training to the specific needs of individuals so they can be better prepared to respond to requests from the public, or to ensure that the way they provide services or communication will be accessible to the public, to people with disabilities. So for example, we sort of have this fundamental training we call disability awareness or disability etiquette, which is really just a way of helping people understand the differences in disabilities between different people. I talk a lot of times about how I've known a lot of people who are legally blind, and they all have different levels of vision. I know a lot of people who use wheelchairs, and most of them are there for different reasons and have different abilities. So it's really important that we go through this. We talk about issues like implicit bias, effective communication, which is everything from providing sign language interpreters to large print documents, Braille potentially. And we give an overview of what Title II of the ADA is, some of what I've discussed here today. So these are just the different areas that will provide training. A lot of this training is available free of charge from the Rocky Mountain ADA Center, which is a project we run here under a federal grant. And these trainings are available in online modules where necessary. MTC staff and Rocky Mountain ADA Center staff do face-to-face in-person training. Even in the last year, we've done some of that. Next slide, please. So these are the 4 basic requirements of a transition plan. First of all, to identify any barriers that are limiting access, and that means specifically limiting access of the public to programs. So we do identify other structural conditions which are not consistent with the ADA standards. Some of these are in employee-only spaces, and those would not necessarily be a barrier to program access. So we're limiting this to those that are actually things that need to be fixed physically to allow program access. Then we describe in detail what needs to be done to eliminate those barriers and specify a schedule. Carla already mentioned some of the timeframes that are going to be applied to the work that we've identified, and then to indicate who's going to be responsible, who's going to get the plan implemented. So those are 4 key points required in the regulations for a transition plan. Next slide. So we did, our people during the pandemic were running around Boulder County, measuring things, collecting data, observing, and putting it all into our tablets and bringing it back here for analysis. We looked at 32 different county buildings and facilities. We looked at 32 trailheads in your open spaces. We did not look at the trails. The scope of the work was to look at the amenities and configuration at trailheads. We also this is actually under a separate project for the fairgrounds. We went through all the facilities there, and we compiled that information and brought it into this project, so we would have a pretty comprehensive look at the county. What these pieces of information are just basically as is conditions that we, first of all, compare against what the ADA standards and other guidelines require. For example, your trailheads, there's not a section of the ADA standards that refers to trails or trailheads. There are standards in the Architectural Barriers Act Accessibility Guidelines, which is a federal document that includes outdoor developed areas, which is enforceable in national parks and national forests and so on and so forth. That is something that we use as a guideline to intuit best practices for those types of facilities. So we're looking at those outside of the normal ADA standards to some extent. However, there are facilities at trailheads such as restrooms, picnic tables, which include dining surfaces, which are things that are covered under the ADA standards. Next slide, please. So just a quick summary of the things that we found. Not surprisingly, every place we go, restrooms have a lot of issues. So in the restrooms, we found 300 specific findings of issues that were not consistent with what the ADA standards require. We found 265 issues with parking spaces. Most of what we found with trailheads had to do with signage. Signage is not necessarily required, but it's a best practice. And advising people at the beginning of a trail of certain conditions on that trail can be really advantageous to everybody, but specifically to people that have mobility issues. They might want to know that they're not going to make it all the way around that 6-mile loop because there's a creek they have to cross with steep banks and so on and so forth. And they might not want to go that way in their wheelchair. But if they get 3 miles down the trail before they find that out, it could kind of, well, let's just say make it a bad day for them, and they're just going to turn around and go back. We found things in walkways. There are picnic tables, picnic units provided at a lot of the trailheads, and we evaluated those and found access to some of those picnic tables was not particularly good. Along in the trail realm, like in the maybe between the parking space and the trailhead itself, we found picnic tables, and those were one of the significant things. And then I think there was a bridge in one of those sections that we found. Next slide, please. At the fairgrounds, we just found incredible older construction that has a lot of work to be done. Once again, restrooms. I know that a lot of the restroom and access issues there are going to be very challenging because just the doorways leading to these restrooms are limited in the maneuvering clearances necessary for people to get through those doors. Again, there were a number of issues with parking, walkways, the entry areas to public buildings. We found issues there. There are camping facilities. Once again, camping facilities are not covered under the ADA standards. However, the Architectural Barriers Act outdoor developed areas standards are best practices, and we apply those when we're looking at camping facilities. So we're looking at things like access to the camping spaces, looking at water hydrants and access to those, and so on and so forth. We found issues in hallways, break rooms. We found some picnic areas, access to the ticket counters and ticket booths, some issues in exhibit areas themselves, some inaccessible conference rooms, or some issues with conference rooms, and some other exterior stuff. In sales and service areas, typically this means counters that have to be accessed. And then in the assembly areas, this usually has to do with access to seating. And we found some access issues with a couple of horseshoe pits. So that's just a real brief summary of what we found at the fairgrounds. And the next slide, pretty much that tells you what we've done, and these are the things we're going to be doing forward. And I think probably I'll let Carla wrap up here. I believe, this is all in terms of what's going to be done internally within the county at this point.
Yep, we are scheduled to analyze all of the public feedback here in the next few weeks. We're going to finalize the transition plan and present it to the Board of County Commissioners for final approval and adoption. And you're going to be able to find most, if not all, information and dates, important dates on our boco.org transition plan website. So if you have any questions, I think our emails are going to be on this website and even our phone numbers. So that's all we have for today. So if you have any questions, let us know.
Hey, Carla. Hey, Carla, this is Jim Krug. Thank you. And I'll throw it out since it's an information piece. I won't poll all the POSAC members, but I'll ask a question and then ask them if anybody wants to chime in. But has there been any attempt, and thank you, Jeff, by the way, for coming out tonight, but has there been any attempt to take what you found and put dollars to it, so to speak? I mean, obviously the venture capitalist in me, I'm sitting there and I see all these things that need to be fixed and I'm going, okay, so what's the bottom,
Yes.
like the realtor, what's the bottom line?
Jim, that's a really good question and we get it a lot. So between the Parks and Open Space piece and the facilities and programs piece, the dollar amount is going to add up over the years. Mostly it's going to be, we're going to have to fund this on a yearly basis, and it's going to have to be an ongoing ask because we don't have a total dollar amount for how much this costs, mostly because it's going to take us so long to actually fix everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a really important question. We really can only fund it on a yearly basis, and we're going to prioritize the public spaces first and the trailheads and the parks and open space and work from there. So
okay. Hey, thanks, Carla. Any other POSAC members have a question?
Yeah, Trace Baker here. As far as the process of prioritizing goes, within a particular property, will you prioritize by property, or will you go out and do all the restrooms at the same time? Just what's the process going to be there?
Yep, Trace, thanks for asking that. We are prioritizing it per property with the Parks and Open Space staff. So we've started to put that together. It'll be part of the transition plan draft that'll be on the website for review. We're only going to do it on a 5-year increment basis, with the hopes that we accomplish those goals, those ADA audit goals in those 5 years, and then we'll move on from there. Every 3 years, we're going to reevaluate the transition plan and the schedule to make sure that we're going to do it yearly, but every 3 years for sure, we're going to make sure we're on track. And if we are behind and need to ask for additional funding, we'll do that then.
Thank you, Carla.
Sure.
Any others? All right. Again, hey, Jeff, appreciate you coming out tonight, and spending time with us. And Carla, thank you and good luck. Obviously we need some work. So,
a little bit.
Yeah, it'll keep you busy. So thank you.
All right.
Thank you for your time this evening. Good night.
Bye.
Next up is the 2021 strategic plan overview. We have forestry and fire and shop work groups, and that would be Stefan and Joe with us this evening, I think. We good to go?
Greetings. So yeah, Stefan Reinhold,
Hey,
Senior
Steph.
Forester, Senior Forestry Resource Specialist at the actual item. So Tina typically introduces these, but I'm going to go ahead and just say this is the strategic plan overview for forestry and fire. There'll be a little stop in the middle, and then we'll go into the shop one. And the stop in the middle would be time to ask me questions, and then after that would be for Joe. So I'm going to share my screen here. And so. And then. Oh, really? It says it is. Can you hear? I did. Hold on a minute. It's showing it highlighted there. Let's try that again. And then share. And then Good evening, POSAC members.
Better?
I'm Stefan Reinhold, and I am the Senior Forestry Resource Specialist, the supervisor for the Forestry and Fire Workgroup under the Resource Management Division of Parks and Open Space. Tonight, I would like to go over the Forestry and Fire Workgroup's strategic plan. Before I jump into the strategic plan, I'd like to tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do. I oversee 5 full-time employees covering 5 different sections. You can see Scott Golden manages our contracts, so the helicopter logging contract, the forestry thinning contracts. Shane Milne manages our volunteer programs, a lot of the final touches on a lot of our forestry projects. Nick Stremmel does our planning, both from the forestry and fire side, although his expertise is more in the fire side. Zach Price, he is our operations, and so in-house operations is the crew that actually does the work on the land. And then Wayne Harrington runs our community forestry sort yard program. In a typical season, we usually have about 5 seasonal employees. 2 of them would cover our sort yards. Currently, we have Dan Bulow and John Clark at our 2 different sort yards. And then we split the remaining 3 positions depending on need for whether we need more people in planning or if we need more people in operations. This year we had Jessica Hawkins who left and had to look for full-time work. And currently we have Karina McLeod and Jacob Finko. And then we had another operational seasonal, Cam Pelot, and he left for a job as well. So we're a little short on seasonals this year, but still doing great work. So the Forestry and Fire Workgroup's desired future condition is forested lands that are ecologically diverse and functioning ecosystems integrated across the greater landscape and resilient to natural and anthropogenic disturbances. And so what we're trying to do is make sure in the light of climate change, in the light of insect and disease issues and wildfires, that we can still maintain forests on the landscape. We manage roughly 30,000 acres of forest within Boulder County. There is an estimated 215,000 acres of forest in Boulder County. The U.S. Forest Service owns a good portion of that. I think it's right around 137,000. The Park Service has about 27,000 acres. And then, of course, there's the private landowners in between. And so when we say across the greater landscape, we really want to work with others to make sure we're working for the greater good and trying to benefit the landscape. So the Forestry and Fire Workgroup goals are as follows. Number 1, we want to mechanically treat forested properties in order to develop a healthy forest structure. Number 2, we want to restore the use of fire as an ecological process within parks and open space forests, and we want to use both naturally occurring fire and prescribed fire management tools when safe and appropriate. We want to work collaboratively with work groups, agencies, and landowners across the landscape to maximize the efficiency of forestry treatments. And we want to complete public support and outreach efforts to help educate constituents about the necessity of forest treatments and prescribed fire activities. And we want to inform the public of parks and open space actions. So our first goal is to mechanically treat forested properties in order to develop a healthy forest structure. Of course, we have objectives that support this goal, and our first one is to complete 100 to 150 acres of forestry treatments utilizing contracts every other year. And the main reason we want to do this is we can get more acres treated by using contractors. Of course, we're always looking for funding, so we apply for a lot of grant funding to help support this, but we also use our Parks and Open Space Improvement Project funding to help match and support these projects. We have a second objective to complete 20 to 30 acres of forestry treatment utilizing our in-house crew, the Boulder County Sheriff's Office Fire Crew, and Youth Corps. And these projects can vary from thinning operations, light thinning operations, to even some in-house using full-fledged equipment to do the work. It's a lot harder to do because our staff is limited in our operations, as I said earlier. The third is to provide wood products for utilization by Boulder County from the projects listed above. So one of the biggest issues in forestry is what do you do with the material that you've produced? And we have some innovative solutions to using our biomass. In our biomass heating facilities, we sell firewood, and we're always looking for ways to utilize it at its highest value. And then our fourth objective is to monitor insect and disease activity on all BCPOS properties. We want to make sure we're keeping track of what's happening, when it's happening, to make sure we can control if needed. In 2021, a lot of our projects had to change, and our thought process had to change because of the Calwood fire. So a lot of time from my staff was devoted into assisting with the Calwood fire recovery. We did a lot of hazard tree removals along the trail corridors at Hile Valley Ranch, and that was using our in-house crew, our sheriff's office crew, and the youth corps. We did complete a 3.2 acre thinning project at Wild Bear using Boulder County Sheriff's Office and Boulder County Youth Corps crew under the support of our staff. We will begin a thinning project at Caribou Sherwood in 100 acres, and we will be doing that work over the fall and winter. So that project kind of bridges 2 years worth of work. And we have completed some more patch cuts at Reynolds Ranch, and that is our in-house crew as well. And a lot of that material we can use for post and poles and building fences on our properties. To go along with that previous slide, the two pictures on the left are actually pictures of the patch cuts that we're doing at Reynolds Ranch. And one of the things we're trying to do is make sure we build age diversity and size diversity on the landscape. And so these patch cuts are strategically located to whether there's aspen pocket in the background or something to that avail. And again, fence posts being used. Pictured here, we actually are providing teepees for a Native American group. On the right-hand side is the Sherwood project, and you can see there's some dense pockets that are seeing insect and disease activity. The picture on the bottom demonstrates kind of on the left how a more open forest structure should be, and on the right, this dense pocket that's seeing insect and disease activity. And so our second goal is to restore the use of fire as an ecological process within parks and open space forests. So our first objective is to complete 200 to 400 acres of broadcast prescribed fire yearly, if conditions allow. And so we've had burn bans, we have had severe drought, and that has actually limited what we can and cannot do. And so that's been very difficult for us over the past couple of years because we know the importance of prescribed fire as restoring the natural process that kept our forests more open. Additionally, our objective 2 there, we complete ditch burning as requested by our agricultural and water work groups. This work helps keep ditches clear and open and does it in a safer fashion than letting just somebody out there with a drip torch and not knowing how to control it and maintain it and do it safely. And then the final is complete pile burning as the need dictates. So a lot of our forestry projects are isolated and we can't get that material out. And so we build burn piles. And so, of course, we want to make sure there's no burn piles on the landscape. So we try to do that work the best we can. So no prescribed fire work has been completed yet in 2021, but we do have a burn window that we are setting from September 19th through November 20th at Hall Ranch. We have the ability to burn up to 338 acres. Some of that work can extend into the winter and into the spring. We think if everything plays out the way we would like, we'll probably get about 100 acres done this year. And then we have some pile burning that could occur. We do have 50 piles at Wild Bear, but I think we are hoping to wait to the spring so these piles have more time to dry out. And our third goal is to work collaboratively with work groups, agencies, and landowners across the landscape to maximize the efficiency of our forestry treatments. So we have a forest ID team and a fire ID team that meets quarterly. We talk about the projects we're proposing, and we have plant ecology, wildlife, weeds, historic preservation, trails, resident rangers, all weighing in our projects, and we alter those projects based on some of their resource concerns. We also participate in a collaborative planning process, not just with our internal staff, but with external staff. We have been working closely with the St. Vrain Partnership, which is trying to look at the whole St. Vrain watershed and try to identify projects that are going to be beneficial to the watershed. We also assist other work groups with forestry-related concerns and assignments. So if anybody needs help from us, whether it's cutting trees because we have the expertise or chainsaw training and things like that, we help out a lot. We provide fence rails and posts to other work groups. And our fourth ongoing thing is to identify other areas where cross-boundary collaborations may benefit parks and open space forest management, looking into other outlets for material, whether it's biochar or things to that avail. So these are things that we're always working on. And our fourth and final goal is to complete public support and outreach efforts. So we want to inform and educate the public of the necessity of our forestry treatments and prescribed fires on a yearly basis. So we do community meetings before we do a big project. We want to inform the public about what forestry actions they can do on their own lands. We have a newsletter that goes out from our sort yards telling people the different things about noxious weeds and all the things that they can do from a forestry perspective on their land. And we also want to provide meaningful volunteer opportunities that complement the forestry work we complete. So of course we have our volunteer groups that go out and do work and help us. We utilize Youth Corps as much as possible. And then finally, we need to run the community forestry sort yard program, where landowners can bring slash and debris from their thinning projects, and we help manage that material. So there's a lot of different things that forestry and the Forestry and Fire Work Group do. If you have any questions, we'd love to hear them now. Thanks.
Thanks, Stephen. Throw it out to the group. POSAC, any questions for Stephen?
Stefan Trace Baker here. Excellent presentation. Thank you. You mentioned the phrase broadcast prescribed fire. What does the broadcast mean there?
Sure. There's a lot of different types of prescribed fire. So, you know, again, burning in a ditch is ditch burning, burning piles is pile burning. Broadcast is when you're actually putting it on the landscape. So if I was burning a full-fledged field, that would be a field broadcast burn. In this specific presentation, we were talking about broadcast burn in the understory of the forest. So trying to burn through the surface layer.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Trace. Any other POSAC questions?
I have a
Yeah.
question.
Yeah,
Oops,
Jen
I'm sorry.
Archuleta, have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Jen.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I'm curious about if you do for example, if you had a prescribed burn set up for Heil, and then we had the big fire, but the area you were going to burn at Heil didn't actually burn, would you go through with that burn, or would you leave that section so that wildlife would actually have some forest to go to? And also, do you just not do the burns, considering that we have federal funding to clean up after one burn? Would it confuse the issue if you started another?
Yeah, that's a great question. We actually did have a section that a portion of an area we had slated for another prescribed fire actually did burn in the Calwood fire, but not very hot. And but like you said, because so much occurred on that property, we're going to leave that project alone for a while.
Okay. Paula, you had a question?
Yeah, thank you, and great presentation, Stefan. My question, I guess, relates to last year's fire and fires everywhere, more frequent all over the place. I'm guessing the public is pretty terrified by fire, and just curious as to the pushback you may be receiving to do some of these activities because of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, education is the most important piece. You know, we have seen anecdotally, we have seen areas where we've done prescribed fire, where the U.S. Forest Service has done prescribed fire, and all these, you know, fires that have occurred, and those areas are the areas that have fared better in terms of survival. There's researchers out there right now looking at that and trying to determine whether or not that you know is scientifically provable. But again, wherever we've done prescribed fire, we have seen good survival. So I think it's trying to educate everybody. With our upcoming burn window, actually, we're still trying to nail down the date, but we actually will have a community meeting in Lyons because the prescribed fire we're doing in Hall. So we'll let you know after that meeting if there's a lot of people that come and ask us lots of questions.
Yeah, there you go.
Great,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you.
Good. Thank you all. Is Joe with us? Steve, is he with you, sitting next to you there?
No, I'm going to hit play though, so his
Okay.
starts. So
Okay.
here we go.
Thank you.
Good evening, POSAC members. My name is Joe Thilgen, and I am the Parks foreperson, lone member of the shop work group located under the Recreation and Facilities Division of Parks and Open Space. Tonight, I'd like to go over the shop's desired future conditions and major projects requested for 2021. First, I would like to tell you a little bit about who I am and what I do. I manage the POS fleet, which includes over 320 vehicles, trailers, and many other pieces of equipment. Part of what I do also includes overseeing use of our workshop, yard, and 2 other off-site storage buildings. I'm the chairperson of the POS Safety Committee and schedule and/or instruct staff in many different areas of training. Starting a year and a half ago, I also took on the role of POS COVID Workplace Coordinator, which involves communicating and ensuring compliance of related policies and tracking, monitoring, and dispensing all related PPE items. The desired future condition of the shop work group is that staff are provided with appropriate, safe, and reliable fleet and equipment, accessible and necessary space within a functioning shop and yard, and essential safety and equipment training to help them accomplish their goals. There are 3 goals for the shop work group. Establish and maintain efficient and productive fleet and equipment, provide and maintain adequate shop, storage, parking, and work areas for staff, and develop and recognize a culture of safety and fleet care. Goal 1, establish and maintain efficient and productive fleet and equipment. Fleet and equipment for this goal is defined as light and heavy duty vehicles, light and heavy construction equipment, and smaller equipment such as mowers and trailers. Occasionally, there are internal POS funds available that are used to replace existing fleet units. These are older units with a high cost of maintenance that for various reasons do not get approved for replacement through the annual county process. I coordinate the maintenance, servicing, and overall upkeep of the POS fleet by working with Boulder County Public Works, as well as performing various tasks in-house. Each year, I prioritize the POS fleet replacement list and assist the county fleet manager with finalizing specifications and obtaining price quotes for new units. Goal 2, provide and maintain adequate shop, storage, parking, and work areas for staff. Our workshop and yard have dedicated as well as shared spaces for all the department's work groups to perform general maintenance and upkeep and storage of small equipment, supplies, and tools. A POS shop addition shown here on the right side of the plans would house our metal welding and cutting operations with 50% more space than the current area. Our current metal working facility is a shared space within the Public Works and Fleet Services building. The first phase of the POS yard paving would include the area to the east of the shop building and provide a more durable asphalt base with better lighting, more delineated parking spaces, and include several islands with shrubs and trees. Goal 3, develop and recognize a culture of safety and fleet care. Some of the main recommendations of the POS safety assessment were a training matrix and better tracking, documented weekly, monthly, project-specific safety meetings within each work group, a PPE matrix, a department safety manual, and job site or project safety leads for larger projects. I work with the Boulder County Risk Management personnel to identify, report, and track all incidents, accidents involving safety and the fleet. Several possible training locations include the Rainbow Tree Nursery and the proposed St. Vrain Forestry Sortyard site. Examples of training courses that will be given are trailer towing, ATV and OHV operation, 12-passenger van training, light and heavy equipment operation. Well, that's all I have for you this evening. Thank you for listening to my presentation on the POS Shop Workgroup Strategic Plan. I am available to answer any questions that you may have. And again, thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Joe. Is Joe there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear
Hey,
me?
Joe, thank you. Hey, Joe, I'll just throw it out I don't have any questions. You have a Herculean task in the job that you do. Thank you for all that you do. Your job I'd last about a half an hour in. Okay. So thank you for that. I'll throw it out to POSAC for any questions they might have. Anyone? No? Okay.
Keeps
Thank
me
you.
Busy.
Yeah. Hey, thank you, Joe. Thank you for coming out tonight. Appreciate it.
The very first slide, you saw the 1954 International Pickup. I'll be taken to the Yesteryear Farm Show tomorrow. It'll be on display. It's donated from the Patasso family of the Patasso Preserve.
Yeah.
It's one of our highlights of our fleet. Come check it out. There's nice interpretive panels on its history.
Cool. Thank you. Hey, thanks again for all your work and coming out to site. Appreciate it. All right. And thanks, Stephen, to you as well. And the last information piece we have tonight is the Youth Corps update. And that's with our new Youth Corps manager, I think, is with us. Correct? Luis?
That is correct.
Hey, good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me tonight. And yeah, I'm excited to speak to you about the Youth Corps. So I'm going to present to you live and direct here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Just give me one moment. All right. So if everyone can see what I'm looking at, again, my name is Luis Bertolo. I'm the new program manager for the Youth Corps. I'm elated to be a part of this wonderful program. I'm going to start off by shouting out my field coordinator and experiential ed rover, George Carter and Stephanie Caratanudo, who were an integral part of helping me to facilitate an unusual modified season, but one that was certainly successful. So before I get into that, in a normal year, we generally have not only the field coordinator and the experiential ed rover, but an additional 1 to 2 rovers who serve to support the leaders in the field. They are leading, those 20 to 30 team leaders and assistant team leaders are leading generally between about 120 to 140 core members, so high school age students that are accomplishing really wonderful stewardship-based work throughout the county in a given summer. The work couldn't be completed, of course, without parks and open space and municipal program sponsors throughout the county. And so all in all, in a given summer, we generally have about 200 active participants from June to August, making everything flow smoothly. As far as this 2021 modified season, unfortunately, we did have to cancel the season. So as I presume some of you know, we canceled altogether in 2020 due to the pandemic. This year, this summer, we had to cancel as well for core members. It was a disappointing and frustrating decision that had to be made. However, we made the best of it. We were able to bring on 22 assistant and team leaders and assistant team leaders, as well as the EE rover, to participate in a modified season. So what we ended up doing is working exclusive or solely with parks and open space sponsors to work on the same impactful projects that we work in, year in and year out. in addition to the projects that the team leaders were able to work on, of course, sans core members, we implemented a leadership development workshop on Fridays. So really had the goal of being able to create some balance with the heavy workload that is, being out in the field, and also, offering the ability to develop leadership skills for these team leaders, most of whom are, in their 20s and 30s. Of course, without core members, the ability to engage with each other and to be challenged by the facilitators of these workshops really made it so that, it was a successful season, all things considered. You're looking at the crew here on the left. Like I said, it was 22 team leaders and assistant team leaders. There were, 2 team leaders that joined the squad from outside of the state. We had one from Florida and one from Vermont. You can see Carly there with her name on the helmet. She is from Florida. I'd like to point her out just because, she had a really formative experience this summer and decided to stay on as a seasonal employee on trails with Parks and Open Space. So was really, happy that she made that decision. Sam, all the way to the right there, came from Vermont, and he's now back at school in Vermont. Altogether, the crew really gelled well. They accomplished a lot of great work at Wild Bear. Following Stefan's presentation, they, were integral in building slash piles and doing some really great forestry work at Wild Bear up by Netherland, as well as Howell Valley Ranch. We did quite a bit of work over the course of the summer at Howell and trail mitigation and really recovery from the fires that happened there last summer. Combined with the leadership development workshops, the leaders this season really had a unique, challenging, and wonderful opportunity to develop their skills. So that was a little brief overview of the modified season, and so I'd like to get in now to our strategic plan. So the Youth Corps delivers the highest quality entry-level work experience that engages Boulder County youth in personal accomplishment, teamwork, and service to the community. I am the new program manager. I am not new to working with youth, emerging leaders, established leaders, and I'm really proud to be a part of this opportunity to lead the Youth Corps and to work with really the future leaders of our community. Collectively, we're all looking to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. And I think that that's the one thing that unites us and allows for us to come together and really accomplish the work that we were able to accomplish not only this summer in a modified season, but also in a normal year as well. And so actually, I'll be remiss to, at this point as well, acknowledge the work of Judy Wolf, who is my predecessor. She was the program manager for the Youth Corps for 16 years. She was involved as a program sponsor herself with the city of Lafayette. And so all in all, it was over 20 years worth of being involved with the Youth Corps. She really did a tremendous job of laying the foundation and building something that was quite sustainable. And so I very much look forward to working tirelessly to build on that and have it evolve. And so that takes us to the Youth Corps goals that we have. So a brief overview. And first and foremost, wanting to ensure reliability and sustainability of our resources. 2, we want to recruit and hire employees who are diverse, inclusive, and guided by the program's mission and vision. We also want to make the program available to more youth and be more representative of our community in connecting, emerging leaders to the natural world and to this, beautiful community that we live in. We also want to enhance program delivery through a continuous mindset of improvement. So goal number one, we want to ensure reliability and sustainability of program resources. And one of the main issues that Judy dealt with over her tenure was, and a key aspect of the youth corps is being able to transport corps members to and from work sites. It's absolutely integral. One thing I'm, really impressed by is the extent to which Judy really wanted to build an equitable program, and so transportation is key. In that vein. In order to do so, over the years, she had to lease vehicles, and we would have had to lease vehicles this summer as well. Of course, since we had to cancel for corps members, those contracts were terminated. However, she, over the course of the last couple of years, started to purchase vehicles for the youth corps. And this year and next will be the last couple of vehicles that we have to purchase in order to truly be able to run a sustainable program from a transportation perspective. And so I look forward to continuing that and ensuring that we are able to acquire those vehicles. Of course, though, we benefit tremendously during the season from those vehicles, but also Parks and Open Space has the ability to use those vehicles in the off season. So it really is a win-win in that sense. Recruiting and hiring employees who are diverse, inclusive, and guided by the program's mission and vision. This is something that's been integral to the program over the years, and is something that I certainly look forward to continuing to promote and ensure that this opportunity is available to all the youth in our community who wish to engage. So, partnerships with local community organizations such as Nature Kids and the I Have a Dream Foundation are organizations that do a really great job in supporting communities that historically have been, in the periphery of the great work that's done in the county. The Left-Hand Outdoor Challenge is another, actually that's a Parks and Open Space program that I look forward to collaborating with, and there'll be quite a bit of crossover there. I would hope moving forward with the youth corps as well. Goal 3, we want to make the program available to more youth and allow them to connect to the natural world and then their community. I think the reality, or the beauty, I should say, of a program like this is to really allow for there to be ownership over the open space that we're so fortunate to have, and so it's imperative to be able to provide that, not only provide that opportunity to all those who seek it, but also continually develop and collaborate with sponsors, not only in Parks and Open Space, but municipal sponsors. Currently, we in a normal year, we work with sponsors in Boulder, Longmont, Lafayette, Louisville, and Erie. And so not only continuing to collaborate with them, but build new relationships in the hopes of strengthening our program. And then goal 4, the final goal I have for you, is to enhance program delivery through continuous improvement mindset. So the couple of objectives that outline this goal, we want to continue to solicit and incorporate feedback and best practices. We want to continue to review all training and print materials annually during the off season. Judy, again, Judy Wolf, did a tremendous job of really building a foundation that is rock solid. And I look at it as if it's there's no need to fix something that's not broken. And so I look forward to continuing to implement all the ways that the youth corps has been successful over the years, and at the same time be able to tweak and evolve aspects of the program that will strengthen it, that will allow for those involved the team leaders, the assistant team leaders, the core members, to not only like tangibly get work done and measurably get work done, but really to have a formative experience that they can use as a stepping stone for accomplishing bigger and better things in their future. And they can look back at their time with the Youth Corps and realize that you know, maybe that was something that you know, kind of set them on their path, so to speak. So things like continuing to maintain you know, a collaboration with the CYCA, the Colorado Youth Corps Association. You know, we are a model here in Boulder County for a successful corps that you know, that's government run, and there are other corps throughout the state that aren't, that we can learn from and collaborate with, and that can serve to challenge us as well. So maintaining those relationships are certainly important as well. This brings me to the end. I did want to share a video with you also as part of our leadership development workshops this summer, and that's something that I actually want to incorporate into a normal year with the Youth Corps, is the ability to not only work in the field, but to also be challenged through things like, you know, workshops. You know, for example, this past summer, we had a couple of workshops on active listening, conflict tools, compassionate leadership, coaching, really try to make it as well-rounded as possible. We partnered with Employment Matters out of Denver to be able to come in and facilitate these workshops. And I'm also particularly proud of the equity, diversity, and inclusion workshop that we planned in-house. And I'll also shout out the work that we've done with CRISP at Parks and Open Space. We had a wonderful panel discussion, which is what you see here. We had Marta, our county commissioner, come and join us. And I'll also shout out Carrie Inoshita and Laura Larson, who helped me plan out this day that was super impactful. This panelist you see here, his name is Justy. He's from Denver, and he shared with us a poem that he wrote that I would love to share with you all. So you might have to turn up your volume. I hope you all can hear it all. And please speak up if you can't, but I'm going to play it right now.
Opportunity for Black girls the world over. It's the rebuke of violence, the patience in the face of violence, the necessity of being just in the defense, the dedication. We stand before a barren field, the soil infertile, swords and fires littering. The work is not finished. The deaths of the past will bring nourishment. We put out fires and pick up blades while we wait. Then comes planting. Biodiversity is key. It's the only way to future-proof our plot. In my lifetime, it'll be a field of chrysanthemums and orchids, fruit trees of various species, bugs just underfoot doing their thing, as the earth intended, and so we toil.
Good.
All right, and so we toil. I'll take questions now.
Thank you, Luis. Hey, Luis, not necessarily a comment, or not a question, but a comment. It's Jim Krug. I would encourage you, you know, I think the only thing I've watched this program over 16 years, and I think it's one of the best things Parks and Open Space does. I've often wondered what your capacity could be if you were fully funded, and how many kids you could really get and attract into the program. So I would encourage you to keep at it. I know there's on the national level, there's a big interest in resurrecting the Civilian Conservation Corps, and a component of that is aimed primarily at 18 to 21-year-olds. So I would encourage you to keep up the good work, and your predecessor started down a good road, I think. But I think it's a great program, and I hope COVID would go away, that you get back to a full ship. So good luck with that. And with that, I'll throw it out to other POSAC members for questions or comments.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Yeah, I hope next summer will be a quote unquote normal year.
Yeah.
This is Ann Obenchain. I have a question, and thank you, Luis. It's a great program, and I'm fairly new to POSAC. So could you help me understand how and where we're marketing this program to recruit people for the Youth Corps?
I mean, what really the network for recruitment was something that, you know, Judy built over time in the last 16 years. But, you know, really it's through collaboration and through the community. Like I mentioned, I had the opportunity to mention a couple. I actually worked as a case manager myself previously for Emergency Family Assistance in Boulder, EFA. And it's organizations like those, EFA, you know, the I Have a Dream foundations that work with the community day in and day out, that really support, you know, a program like ours, an opportunity to be paid, for a high school student to be paid to work out in the field. It is something that doesn't need to be promoted too much. And so we have applicants every year, you know, that it seems, and I haven't worked a normal year yet. You know, it was a strange modified year, and, you know, leading up to canceling, we were interviewing core members and team leaders, and those were a lot of interviews. We were kind of forging ahead as if it would be a normal season until it wasn't, and there was a lot of interest and a lot of disappointment when we canceled. So the desire to be a part of the youth corps is there, and I think that the crux, or the, you know, aspect of that I would like to focus on, is ensuring that everyone in our community has access to a program like the youth corps.
Thank you.
Any others? Okay. Thank you, Luis. But again, best of luck to you. Thank you for coming out tonight. We had the director's update earlier, so there's no other comments. I think we'll adjourn, and we'll actually finish ahead of time. Is that possible? Is that allowable? Yes.
Yes.
So you all be safe, and the next meeting will be on September 23rd, and be safe.
Great.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Right.